Welcome to this week's edition of the Don Cherry Grapevine podcast. And Dad, we know they're listening because you did a tweet a little while ago about Carey Price. And lo and behold, one of the sports channels did a tweet on Carey Price, should he be feared? But people kind of weren't listening quite exactly what you were saying on your tweet.
Well, all I said was if you were picking a long shot, that Montreal would be because they're going to play Pittsburgh. And somehow or other, they always play good against Pittsburgh. But all I was saying is that I think they're an 800-1 shot.
Yeah, I looked on the mybookie.com. They're like 800-1 or something like that to win the Stanley Cup.
And they're a dark horse. And listen, I after you told me that, I looked at a few stats and I wrote down a few stats about Montreal. Now, and you have to think about this too. You know, a good shot of Carey Price.
Right, because they won't be playing at home.
Well, they won't be playing at home. I don't think they're going to be playing. Where are they going to be playing?
Well,
we don't know yet.
We don't know yet. The one hub is in Vegas. So
can you imagine? I mean, can you imagine 10 weeks in Vegas? I mean, you're just asking for trouble.
Do they have enough rinks in Vegas for all that ice time they're going to need?
Well, I'm not worried about the rink time. I mean, 10 weeks. I mean, you'd have to. I mean, I don't know.
Well, the other one they are talking about Toronto, but they said that they have to work out. Right now, there's a 14-day quarantine if you come in, so they have to.
That'll be over.
They'll have to think, but they want to do Toronto, which makes sense because there's you figure there's 12 teams, so 6 teams are going to play. And so they're going to want to have a morning.
I'm not worried about it in Las Vegas about the playing on the ice time.
No, but I'm just saying but they need they're going to need ice. But anyway, Montreal, they're going to be playing on the road, and they're
pretty good on the road. Now let's just go over. Okay, let's just go over this here. Montreal stats, and I wrote it down. Power play at home, they're the worst. The power play, and you know in the playoffs you win on the power play. On the road, at home, they're the worst, absolute worst in the NHL. But on the road, they're third, which is unbelievable. That tells you something right off the bat. And I'll keep on going like that. And listen, I know they get more power plays at home and everything because they used to.
So to think of that, they get more power plays at home.
Yeah, I
mean,
mean
they can't score.
Well, they always had more power plays.
I'll get onto that. I'll tell you. Oh. And back when I played,
well, I was going to say when you coached against them, they always had more power plays.
Well, that was Sammy Pollock. We must talk about him someday. The smartest guy that ever was in hockey. They lead the league in 1-goal losses, 13. You know, and I know they get in the playoffs on a fluke and everything like that. You know, and everything like that. But they led the league in 1-goal losses, 13. They lost 7 games at home by 1 goal. At home by 1 goal, most in the league. Unbelievable. They lost 6 games on the road. They only lost 6 games on the road by 1 goal, which is a lot, but they lost more at home by 1 goal. They're second most in the league in shots overall. Second most shots in the league at home. You get all those shots. I mean, you think you'd win, eh? It's something that I guess the goaltenders, they don't. I don't know. I can't figure that one out. Price is 18 wins at home at 12. I mean,
he's 18th in the league.
18th in the league. He's second in the league with the wins on the road. I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean, you have to think about it. Think about this. He's second in the league with wins at home on the road. Right? Am I saying this right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have to think about this one. He terrific average on the road, and against the Pens, this is very important. They've only lost 1 game, if you want to go by that. They're 1-1-1, and they always play good against Pittsburgh for some reason. I would not want to be Pittsburgh taking Montreal in the first round.
Yeah, and then you look at one of the things too that was, like Carey Price, he's 18th in the league. He's 18th in the league with a save percentage of .904 at home, and then on the road he's third best.
I know.
Let me ask you, Dad. Okay, is it So I'm just, as I said, the average fan here. Is it the fans that put pressure on the team? Is it that they're at home with the wives, or the wives are bugging them to take out the garbage?
No, nothing with the wives.
You know,
Nothing to do with the wives.
No. But I'm just saying, what's your theory? Do they feel pressure?
It's the crowd.
It is the fans.
They are the smartest people in hockey at the games, and there's 20,000 of them there.
And they razz pretty fast.
Well,
They give the Bronx
front
cheer.
runners too. They are.
Yeah,
they're
for sure.
the most knowledgeable. But if you go on the power play and you don't do very good at the start, they get very restless. Shall we say restless? Yeah, pretty good restless. Whereas Edmonton, they're pretty good in Edmonton. They'll let it go. They won't boo. Well, they started to boo near the end. But Edmonton fans are great fans. They don't boo. They're not front runners. Montreal fans are the most knowledgeable. They know more about what's going on in hockey than anybody, and they're the toughest. They're toughest on everybody. Now, Carey Price, I don't want to say that he's in Patrick Waugh. Remember Patrick Waugh? They booed him. They jeered him off the ice. Remember that time?
Yeah, I think they were playing Detroit, and they gave him the Bronx cheer, and then who was the coach? Tremblay.
Trombley was the coach. Trombley was the coach. Left him in there for 9 goals.
Oh, that was the infamous scene with that was on TV when he was walking back and forth.
Well, they left him in there for 9 goals. The crowd got on him. I imagine Patrick Waugh, and they've never been. And they traded him to Colorado. Colorado won the Stanley Cup, and Montreal hasn't won since. But anyhow, the crowd is they're the smartest people in hockey. There's no doubt about it. They're the smartest people in hockey. The second smartest would be Quebec, if they ever had Quebec. We must get into that sometime. But the power play, they get restless, and everybody knows if you don't score in the power play, you're not going to win. And that's one of the reasons that they're not.
Yeah, because it is funny. Like it's not just like when you read those stats, it's not just Carey Price. It's like the power play's no good at home, and then it's great on the road. Carey Price struggles at home, and he's great on the road.
Well, the crowds, they know what's going on. You don't fool them. They're smart.
Maybe they're just a bunch of players like to be on the road.
Well, I never thought of that.
They enjoy themselves.
Most
that
people
simple?
like to be in Montreal, I'll tell you the truth. But no,
what you were saying is, if you look at all that, and then you say, well, look at Pittsburgh, they're going to play Pittsburgh. I mean, as I say, if you went to my bookie, you'd probably want to lay some money on Montreal. But if you look at the stats, it's not. It would almost be in favor. We should look at Pittsburgh stats, what they do on home and the road. I haven't taken a look at that, but you never know, right?
Well, the thing is that get me if you're taking a long shot and you want to make some money. That's the team, the dark horse, bet on Montreal because they won't be playing at home. No. That's for sure. Where are they going to be playing? What do you think, Toronto?
Again, they're from what I've been reading and what I've been hearing, that they said they're trying to get it into Toronto, but they still have to see what the federal government is doing with the 14-day self quarantine if you get in. So hopefully I guess they wanted to start training camp by mid-July, July 10th or July 15th, and they're going to see. But I don't know where they would go if they didn't. Like they can't. That it's because it's not like the Ontario government. It's the federal government.
Why wouldn't they go to Montreal if they don't?
Because it's not just Toronto. It's Canada. You have to have 14 days if you come into Canada. Plus Montreal doesn't want to play in Montreal, right?
No, they want to play in Montreal. But anyhow. But I can't believe you're saying they're down in the States. They go to Vegas. Of all the places, that would be one of the last. Why are they going to Vegas?
I don't know. Like I think they said that because there's so many hotels and they can get teams. They could like get a hotel and all the NHL players can be in one hotel, and so they're not going to be mixing with other people.
Yeah, but what about their rinks around? There mustn't be many rinks.
You wouldn't think. I don't know. Maybe there is, but you would think they got to have a lot of rinks because those. You figure they want to have practices and morning skates and everything like that, and because I don't think from what I understand they're going to play at least the first round 3 or 4 games a day in the one rink, so you can't have a morning skate in the rink, right? Because the games are going.
No, I'm serious about having the guys go in LA for 10 weeks. I mean, talk about temptations, and I mean, I don't like to say anything. The guys are, but hockey players are hockey players. I mean, I don't mind a week, but 10. Well, how long will they go?
Oh, well, they said it could be like, I don't know where they're going to do the Stanley Cup, but like the finals. But it could be 6 weeks, could be 10 weeks.
Well, if you got to stay in place for 10 weeks, Vegas is the place to stay.
That's it, right? All the wives and everybody are happy.
They'll all want to come down and yeah.
But they said there'll be no fans. So, but the other thing too, Dad, as we said, we talked about people are listening. Is about a month ago we talked about a young player from the Ottawa 67s.
Nobody knew about
Hoffenmeyer, and all of a sudden about a week ago, Terry Koshin did
and thank goodness for him. He's the only guy that writes about junior Canadian Hockey League.
Yeah, and he did a big story on him because the Leafs signed him, and the Coyotes didn't sign him. The Leafs signed him, and he won the CHL Defenseman of the Year.
And we saw him play. Who did he play for?
Don Mills.
Don Mills. I remember we used to go to the games all the time. And I have to admit, he was pretty clumsy. But
So I remember, Cindy, we were sitting at the far end of the Scotia Pond, and we were sitting with Brian Kilray was there with Bert, and we were sitting there talking, and Don Mills was playing, and I think some of the other Ottawa scouts were behind us, and we were watching, and he, at the time, I have to admit that, he wasn't really on the radar, because this was it would have been mid-season. And it's funny how you remember certain players in certain situations. Like I remember Mitch Marner. Remember when Marner scored that goal?
Yeah, that tying goal. Yeah. And I said to you, he's the smartest guy in the league, and he really wasn't. He wasn't outstanding like he was with the Leafs.
He was good. And then I remember one scout saying, "Do you like Mitch Marner?" And I said, "Yeah." And I says, "I think that's the smartest guy." And he goes, "Our GM says he wouldn't waste the gas bringing him up to talk to him."
Nice.
So anyway, but with getting back to Noel, so we were watching, and I remember he was killing a penalty. And he just blocked, like he would do anything. He blocked a shot, and he blocked a shot, and he dove head first, and he knocked the puck in the corner. And you kept saying to Brian, "I really like this guy. I really like this guy." And they did end up taking him first in the first round. And but there's no way back then you would have thought that he would be the best defenseman in the CHL.
No, I have to admit that. I did tell a story about his mother, eh? But I tell
the story again.
I like that. I kind of like that because he's the best defenseman. And when I told the story, he was just playing. Anyhow, so I'm walking out, and his mother is big blonde, just like him. He's a big blonde kid, and she said, I have to tell you about the story about Noel. And at the time he was just a player, just a player. And I said, "Oh yeah." And I almost said, "Who?" So anyhow, she said, I'm his mother, and I thought he's 15 years old, 14 or 15 years old. I thought I could look in his wallet. I said I had a guilty feeling all the time looking in my son's wallet, but I took it. I'm going to look in his wallet.
Well, I think, because I think it was there. I think she was doing his laundry, and his wallet was in his pants.
That's what mothers they use as the excuse. Well, I was doing his washing, and his wallet was in his pants.
No, I don't know. I forget that. Anyhow, she had his wallet, and I took the cards out. I took everything out just to see what was in his wallet, and it came to this here one. I could tell it came from someplace. It was all folded up and unfolded and folded. Oh yeah, he's got a picture of a girl in there, and everything. She's, "I'm going to open this up," and I opened it up, and it was a picture of you. I didn't know what to say at the time. So anyhow, and he does his. Anyhow, when he get drafted, I watched him pretty closely, and I thought, boy, he's going to Arizona. They need guys, and Rick Tocchet, and what a great spot. And they didn't sign him, and you were saying they didn't, and Arizona didn't sign another guy too that you liked.
Well, they traded a guy named Kevin Ball, and if the Canadian fans remember him, I think he was the best player on Team Canada last year in the World Juniors. Like he is going to be another Tyler Myers. He's a big guy, and another guy went to Ottawa at 67s, and moves the puck, and you can see Dale Hunter really relied on him in the World Juniors.
Yeah.
and Phoenix traded him.
There's another guy you like too that people Drysdale, and I think.
Well, I was saying for all you, and so all you people who are wondering who's next to write about out there, listen, is a guy named Jamie Drysdale.
I think they know about him though.
Well, he's up and coming. He's going to be. He'll be. I'm saying he'll be a first overall pick in the NHL.
Shane Wright too. They had it right up after we talked.
Shane Wright, we talked about him a lot. He became the OHL and CHL Rookie of the Year.
Plays like Crosby, sort of.
Yeah. And then there's another kid
plays for Kingston
and did very well. And then there's another
guy. He really did well in Kingston.
Yeah, he set a record for rookie scoring, and so hopefully Kingston got a new coach, and hopefully they'll build around.
We must talk about the new coach too from Toronto, eh? And
he was the Toronto assistant coach.
McFarland, eh?
Yeah, I believe.
Yeah.
And so hopefully they'll get going. And then the other kid that, for all you people looking at, a kid named Adam Fantilli, who's down in the U.S., but I think he's going to come back to the OHL, I bet. He wanted to play 1 year with his brother, and then he's going to go.
I hope so, because he is good. He is good, too. He's a different player than Wright. He's a sort of a gambler. He gambles, and he's a different player.
Yeah.
I'd like to tell a story. I remember, Tim, you telling me a story about you and Dad going out. And Dad, you are very good at picking out the future stars.
Absolutely. I'm an expert.
You could tell them. So you were telling me, Tim, that you went out and you went to a game and there was only one player you were there to scout. So you thought you'd test Dad. So you said to Dad, so Dad, who do you like out there? And Dad told you who you were going to be looking at in the warm-up. Yeah. Do you remember that? And Tim says, I can't believe he picked out the guy in the warm-up on who they were going to go see.
And his number was 18.
Was it 8? Yeah. He goes, number 18. But in the warm-up, you didn't even see the kid play. So what would it be that you would be looking at that you could tell that kid stood out in the warm-up?
First of all, I think you have to be involved in the game for a long time. And I think going out with Tim a lot, seeing the kids, you could say with the Mississauga Ice Dogs, the players we got, we never had a chance. But no, I don't know.
Okay, with you, but what do you see? What did you see in that kid?
It's a funny thing you say that, because there's better skaters out there. There's better. It's like Hoffmeyer. There was better skaters. There was better, but there's just something there.
Intensity?
No, I don't know. That's a basketball thing, intensity.
Oh,
but
I'm
just something.
There's something, and I can't tell you what it is.
Oh, you've done that a lot. I remember one game we were at, I guess it was 2 years ago, and we were at the Vic Village at watching Don Mills. And
that's a cold rink.
That's
I remember.
A cold rink.
I remember going
there. They're all
there.
cold.
That was
but that's a
real
really cold one. I even remember that one being a hockey bomb.
And you said, and we were watching Don Mills and I forget the other team, and so we were kind of watching the other team because I'd watched Don Mills so much. And you said, I like that 18 on the other team, and I go, oh yeah, and I'm thinking, no, he did. He goes, no, he's a good player, and guess who gets the tying goal with about 30 seconds left? 18.
Hard to be humble, Dad, I guess, when you're there.
Well, it's got to the point. Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, but Don Mills unfortunately scored like 10 seconds later.
I remember that. It was a defenseman too, though.
Got the puck, walked in and snapped the top corner.
I remember that guy.
But that's an important thing to remember when the parents are there and they see you scouts and all that. You have no interest in who wins or loses. You're there to.
Some teams we do.
Well, you might root for Mississauga or whatever, but it's what the kids do during the game, right?
Yeah, but I mean, because like there's a lot of guys that who are on good teams. They're going to look good because they're playing with better players, and then there's other guys you look at. The biggest example is Liam Foodie, who plays for London, and I think he played for Markham, and he was okay. Like Markham wasn't a very good team, and he was really good, but he wasn't on a very good team. He didn't stand out, and then of course, guess who takes him?
But then there's another way of looking at it.
London takes him.
Another way of looking at it too, Tim, that we have looked at sometimes, where the team has, I hate to say the team, one team has a whole, and I sat down and said, you're going to have a tough time picking star in this game. Remember that, Tim? Some of them have so many good guys that they're all good.
Yeah.
And so you have to put down who's good.
So
But you
it's
can
hard-
say they're all good.
It must be hard, though, to apply that to the goalies, because whether you have a good team in front of you or if you
That's
have
true.
a bad team
That's
in
true.
front of you, sometimes you can look good if you're the goalie.
Yeah, the goalies. I always say the goalies. You want to get on a medium team.
A medium team.
You don't want
Yeah.
to get on because it's like in the GTHL. It's tough being the goalie for the Toronto Marlies because they have the
Right.
reputation of always being a really
Yeah.
good team, and a lot of times they don't get a lot of shots.
Right.
But they're good goalies, and you sit there and you go, it's tough to judge them and all that, and they don't seem to get the respect of the other goalies do. But then there's other kids who are good goalies but see 50 shots and they let in.
But Tim, you were talking. We loved the kid that played last year, a little guy, eh?
Yeah.
And you were saying he never got drafted at all.
No. Well, I think the days of the small goalies are
But I mean,
over.
what's the difference? You stop shots.
know, he
It's
was
just the guys he's playing against go to the National Hockey League, but every goalie that we see drafted now is over 6 foot.
Yeah, they're all big. I mean, the little goalies have a real tough time now. Like the CHL teams don't.
Well, you have a theory, eh? Of that 2 years. We must get into that. But tell us why. I'm a little confused about that one too.
Well, like I think the goalies. The problem with the goalies now is, and especially since they stopped bringing European goalies in, and now they brought them back for whatever reason. It
is the right thing to do.
Yeah,
Maybe they want to be diverse.
but it's
Well,
not. It's not the right thing for the
Not for Canadians. But go
goalies.
ahead.
So if you're 16 years old and you're drafted, you're a goalie. You're not very, very, very few make the OHL,
Right.
right? So you have to play at least one more year, if not 2 years, to make the OHL or CHL if you're talking CHL. So what happens in Ontario is they either have to go play midget hockey, and midget hockey isn't very good anymore. It used to be really good, but it's all kind of dispersed and it's kind of weak, and they're not getting high in competition. And if they go play Tier 2, Junior A, there's older goalies that they're playing.
The coach wants to win, so they're not going to play him.
So they play some, but they don't play a lot. They
Yeah.
don't play important games. So there's almost 2 years of a lost 2 years. And then they come back, and then they got to go to the OHL, and then they kind of work their way in. And I think when they didn't have the European goalies, it forced the kids to come. It forced the teams to bring the kids up a little bit sooner and get them better practices and stuff like that. But
When we're thinking of Canadians, we wouldn't want to.
Well,
we wouldn't
yes.
want to
Yeah.
jump in and help the Canadians too much.
We want to be fair.
yeah, but it's like even now, like you look at a kid that's 5'9" at 16 years old, they just kind of.
But at 16, I mean, they could still be growing.
Well, what they did, the one good thing is they have now in the OHL is kind of like they have a midget draft. So you can, I think it's 3 rounds or 6 rounds that you can draft. And a lot of the guys that are getting drafted in that round are goalies because first of all, you can see if they grow.
Yeah.
And some goalies did. And all that. So a lot of times guys are, you get that midget draft, they're drafting goalies. But
Same thing is in the National Hockey League, Tim, not talking about goalies, why they don't draft goalies number 1. I think the last one I remember was Fleury, I think it was for Pittsburgh, I think.
Yeah.
Marc-Andre Fleury. But, nobody, and everybody knows you're not going anywhere unless you got a goaltender, yet they don't draft them number 1 or number 2.
yeah, well, it takes so long, right?
Yeah.
You don't know.
Well, and you never know. Like, take the Bington, the kid that won for St. Louis last year. I mean, he had to knock around, and all of a sudden they get in the groove. And
the whole funny thing with Binghamton, we're getting kind of off top, is that Marty Brodeur was with St. Louis.
yeah,
and didn't seem to see that, and then he left, and then Binghamton got the chance and won the
the guy
Stanley
got
Cup.
hurt, and he come in, and I remember we're getting in the finals, and I remember he played a lousy game, the 6th game. Remember he played a lousy game. I mean, the 6th game, I thought, and Rask for Boston played a great game, and I thought, oh boy, this is automatic. So I was in the elevator with him, and he's a tall, thin guy, eh? And I don't think I was going to the sauna as usual, and I didn't look, and I had my hat pulled down, and he didn't recognize me and everything, and I don't think he did. Well, I think at the end, but I said to him, I says something, and he says, "Oh, we're winning today." And I thought, yeah, the way you played in the 6th game. No, he says, "We're winning. You'll see." And by God, did he play great in the after the 6th game? I thought, remember, he was lousy.
Well, were you questioning whether they were even going to come back with him or not?
No, I knew we were coming back with him.
They would come back with him?
Yeah, I knew they'd come back with him. But the way he played in the 6th game and the way Rask played, and you know what killed him? You know what killed Boston in that? I'm getting carried. I should. But you remember that penalty that should have been called?
Oh, yeah.
And it didn't call. And the guy walked in and scored. You know what? It's something like that. If you people that play the field that watch the game and know what's going on, and I thought the penalty. In fact, everybody let up.
Well, that's the thing. What happened? Boston let up.
Yeah, and I think Rask let up too. And the other guy got the puck, and he just, well, I might as well keep going. I don't hear a whistle, and he scored. And it just threw Boston off. It just threw them off enough. And because they should have won that game. If Rask was sort of, I think it threw Rask off too, because he let up, he almost let the guy score.
Yeah.
And
the guy. Well, if people don't remember it, you can. It's on YouTube. All the Bruin fans remember it. The guy walked in and he just flipped the feet out from underneath him.
Yeah.
And the ref
he thought he was getting a penalty too.
And everybody kind of stopped for a second. Then he got the puck, walked in, and made a pass, and bing, it was in.
It was a funny thing. They were calling penalties that game too.
Yeah.
And that one, I thought he kicked his feet out from him, knocked him down. He thought, so it just kind of went dead. And the guy says, well, he didn't blow the pistol.
2 referees, and they missed it.
Well, it was late. Was that in the third?
Was
the
funny,
third period
funny,
or something like that? And they kind of, it must have been the third period.
It was.
So they kind of like, they back off, and it was a close game.
And they got criticized. Oh boy,
can't win.
Anyhow, Bennington. It was a goaltender brought up. He wasn't very. Well, he was okay. Well, he was okay, but he got the chance and he just took off.
Well, we'll go full circle, and that's what you're saying about Carey Price. He's better at home. He's away from home, and
he has pressure at home. And I don't act so cool. I mean, I've known the kid since he's been. He played in the prospect game and everything like that. Don't act so cool. I'd get mad once in a while, especially at home. And when a goal goes in, he kind of.
Well, maybe it's not his nature.
Well, no. On the road, he gets a little upset.
Oh, does he?
But yeah, but if he just.
Well, he knows this is his last chance.
Here we are back in Montreal.
We'll talk about
I'm not cheering for Montreal. I like Kirk and I like Luke and all those guys.
And Max.
Max and all that. But I like them to win except they're playing the Bruins. I'm just saying that if he ever gets hot, and he should know this is maybe his last chance, because I don't know if they'll make the playoffs, if they do a regular or not. This is his last chance, and he could, if he ever turns into Carey Price, the way he can play, he could win. He could win a couple of series.
You were talking just kind of get off hockey for a second, Dad, and something that you were talking that you were when with Biddington, you were going to the sauna, and I was watching a thing the other day that there's a UFC fight card coming up, and 3 of the guys on the card couldn't make weight. They tried to cut weight and they couldn't cut the weight. And remember, you were in Winnipeg.
I think it was in Boston. I don't know where I was.
Yeah, you were in Winnipeg, and they were and you saw one of those guys trying to cut weight,
and he was as thin as a rail. So I'm in a sauna. It was electric sauna or something. Those ones. It wasn't a steam one, and I was
like a dry sauna.
Dry sauna, yeah. And I'm sitting over in a corner, and I'm these guys come in. And they were sitting there, and this guy was as thin as a rail. And there was 3 guys with them, and they had their watches on. And and I'm kind of listening, and they don't know me, and they're saying, okay, just 3 more minutes to go. 3 more minutes to go. Can you take 3 more minutes? And 2 more minutes to go. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? And this poor little guy sitting there thin as a rail, and soon as he says, okay, that's it. And they took their hotel cards and they were wiping them, and you should have seen the sweat come out of them. And so I kind of watched them after a while.
Like squeegeeing him with the sweat.
Well, didn't they have they had like Vaseline or something?
They had Vaseline on them to hold the sweat in.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
okay.
and then when they got him, they were and he was sitting there, and he never said a word. He was so weak, and all of a sudden, got outside, they recognized me. Hey, Grapes, and all that there. And they were fighting, and I said, what's going on? He said, well, what we do, and they told me they put grease on him, they hold the sweat in, and when he gets red hot, and you should have seen the sweat come out of him. It was unbelievable. And the poor guy was so weak from this, he couldn't even talk. But he won. I remember reading the paper. He won. It was a big championship fight, and he won the next night.
Yeah, that must be tough. Like the one girl, she was a 1 pound heavy, and she couldn't cut the weight. She was trying to cut weight, and she almost fainted.
Remember that guy my favorite, John Gotti?
Arturo Gotti.
Yeah.
John Gotti was a mafia
I call him
guy.
John Gotti. Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah,
he's the mafia guy.
Well,
Arturo
same
Gotti,
thing.
Yeah.
And remember he died. He was my favorite fighter. Boy, he when he'd come back and fight, he was from Montreal, eh?
Yeah, he was one of he was one of those guys that kind of getting off topic, but he could cut weight. Like he could go. He was like a welterweight. I think
he was a welterweight. Yeah.
So he would come in either right on the weight or even lower, and they used to do the weigh-in the day before, and then they said when he'd go in a fight, he'd be close to 30 pounds heavier.
Yeah, and they complained to the management that this guy he could lose the weight. And right after, like, eating steak and stuff, and then he'd fight guys about 30 pounds later. Remember, he hit the one guy.
Well, one guy, he really beat up bad and ended his career. And again, well, I don't know if it was 30 pounds, but he was a good.
But doesn't that have to be all water? That wouldn't be muscle overnight.
I don't know how he could do it. He could cut it, and then he went in, and he was almost like a half a weight or a weight class higher. And one guy, he ended his career, and the guy sued. Because he said, it's kind of you're kind of cheating. They don't know how he did it. So remember his fights with Mickey Ward.
Oh, Mickey! And then they showed a movie of Mickey Ward, and I'm waiting. Mickey Ward. He was an Irish guy, and they showed a life. He had a tough time and all that stuff. I thought for sure he's going to show. Well, let's face it. Mickey Ward was known for John Gotti fights.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what happened was
Gotti, not John Gotti.
Oh, I call him John Gotti. Anyhow, I saw him. He was noted for those fights. They showed one fight.
No, I went to the movie and I was sitting by myself. Nobody went. It was called The Fighter. Remember the movie, The Fighter?
Yeah.
Fighter was. So I thought, well, that was in there. Was nobody in there? And then the movie's over. I'm thinking, like, they didn't show the one thing he's known for. So if you're a boxing fan and you haven't seen it, again, go on YouTube and do Arturo Gotti and Mickey Ward. I think they had 3 fights.
Oh,
and
they were the best fights.
It was like a Rocky movie. It was better than a Rocky movie. Yeah. And
up and down, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, it was the last fight. Really, Mickey Walker really stood out.
That was the only fight.
It was the only fight, and he was noted for. And they did a movie on him, but didn't show it.
Yeah, but it just reminded me. Didn't you guys used to have to weigh in at training camp, did you? And you found ways to kind of.
Well, I had ways. We had to weigh in. Joe Crozier used to have us weigh in all the time, and I was a little heavy. I have to tell you the truth. First of all, what you do was you put a little gum on the end, which always helped you with your weight.
Because it was the old sliding scale.
The sliding scale. Well, no,
so where did you put the gum? What do you mean?
On the end.
Oh, to stick up.
Yeah, not a lot, because if you put a lot on gum on, if he saw about 5 pounds, something's going on here. So he used to, and then the trainer, hey, come on, this is ridiculous. So then at the end, what we used to do is he never noticed. We used to grab the middle part you know, and made it lighter. Well, only two.
If you're getting weighed, like of that thing, either you squeeze it or just put your finger really hard on a table next to it, and the weight comes like you lose 5 pounds.
Just pull it up, and he never caught on, never caught on. And Cheevers was the worst. He was the worst. Cheevers could lose. He was one of those guys like Goalie. He could lose it, like he'd be heavy the day before, and he'd lose about. So anyhow, I thought, how ridiculous. And I took over Rochester. I thought, I was going to be like one of those. And I was really mad at the guys. And we went on a trip, and I had them for some reason weigh in right after, and right away they're going to be, And
so
I thought,
punishing them.
How stupid this is, being weighing in all the time. You could tell if a guy's playing good or a guy's playing bad. I mean, so I got to watching I was playing. The guys that really were on the shape, they played lousy, but they were okay. But the guys that were really good, that got a lot of goals, they were always a little heavy. So what I did was when I became a coach of the Boston Bruins, I said, forget the weights. And the trainer come in about 3 times in a row. He says, I want the guy. No, I said, forget it. And then we just forgot about the weights. Never mentioned the weights. Nobody went near the scales, and we did pretty good. I mean, the guys used to be more worried about the weight than they were about playing. And it's the same thing as going on now. The guys and I watch this all the time, the guys that could lift the weight, more weights, the guys that could do this, the guys that could run, and all that, they were always the first guys that were cut all the time. So when I don't worry about the weight, don't worry about anything. I never had a weight problem because I didn't know any of the weight problem. I know Cheevers was a little, but he was stopping pucks. That's all I don't care. So he loses 20 pounds, he can't stop pucks, but he's in weight. And another thing that I didn't, and they had a weight machine and they had all that stuff for the Boston Bruins. I didn't care with that. I didn't care. The guys that could lift hands and all that stuff, just play good and don't worry about anything. And it's the same thing as, and I'm on kind of a roll here now. I never cared about drills. A guy can do the drills, but he can't play the game. Always scrimmage. And I always thought of Toll Blake. Toll Blake was the best coach ever in hockey, I think. I mean, Dick Irvin, his dad, was pretty good too. But anyhow, of all the guys I've run into, of all the guys I've known, the most guys at everything that I ever run into was Toll Blake. And I remember I went to Montreal camp, and I thought I was going to do the stupid drills and everything, and lift weights and all that stuff. So the guy put on a real good sweater, no, this is pretty good. We trained, and I looked in the other dressing room, they had a white sweater on, really, really, really good. Oh, I guess this is how they practice and everything, okay? So we went out, and so I followed. I remember Gary Bergman was the guy who was on my club. I just kind of followed him, and we took shots just like it was a game. And we had a referee, and we scrimmaged. And boy, you better scrimmage. You better not float. And he was the best coach. And when you scrimmaged and you played, that's how he wanted you to play. He never had stupid drills. Well, Tim, we laugh at get the puck behind the net.
Yeah, you could see the breakout play is every team does the same breakout play. And
you shoot the puck in, your guy gets the puck at center ice, he puts it on the net, he puts it behind the net, he puts the defenseman up to the winger, up to center. It happens about once every 50 games. I've always said, and I know I'm going a little long here, but I have to say one thing about hockey schools and things like that, and then we'll end on this, but I will go on this. I know we're going too long. But hockey schools and hockey, and when you coach in the thing, and you do it for the parents. And you're going to say, well, what is the parents? When you see a guy, and they all have it now, the chalkboards. By the way, Brian Kilray never, ever used a chalkboard. When you see a guy with chalkboard on the glass, and they have the guys that you're paying about What do they pay now for the ice? About $150.
Well, if it's on sale, probably around over $200.
So if you wanted them to do drills, you did it. You told them in the dressing room. You didn't tell them on the ice. But you're going to say, well, why do they do it? They do it for the parents. My, look at that guy. He's teaching them a lot. And the one guy, I'm going to mention his name, Dan Cameron. Am I right?
Yep.
That was Dan Cameron. He coached Montreal Junior Canadiens.
The Junior Canadiens.
Junior Canadiens in Montreal.
Zach Hyman was on that team.
Yeah. And all he did was scrimmage. And every guy got drafted to the OHL except the backup goalie, eh?
Well, either they got drafted or they all got scholarships.
One or the other. And the parents didn't want him back because he did not bullshit them. I hate to use that word, but he did. He just played. He did it regular. And I often think now I should have got him as the coach and of the Mississauga Ice Dogs. He was a little flaky, but I'll tell you one thing: he was a good coach.
Good. We'll end on one thing, Dad. People are, sending in a lot of questions. So we'll do one question and then we'll end. So from Wichita, the guy asks...
Is he from that? That's the Wichita. He just
I don't
likes
think he
name.
is. No,
Yeah.
Maybe he is. Who knows? Did Bobby Orr have the complete green light to rush with the puck all times?
Oh,
and did you ever ask him to defend? Laughed out loud. Probably dumb question, but just wondering. Thanks.
Bobby Orr. When I went there, somebody said, you coach Bobby Orr. I never... I'll tell you. I'll go tell you a story. When I think we were in Moncton, BC, I'll never forget this as long as I'll always remember it. I was a new coach. I'll tell you more stories about Bobby Orr, but this is the one story I'll tell you. He was on for a goal, and a guy went around him and scored, and boy was he mad. I didn't know him. I think
it was like one of your first games coaching him.
It was my first game. It was an exhibition game. So when something like that happens, you just left him alone because he'd be just frothing on the bench. So he got the puck and he went through the whole team and just ran. The next shift, and it was a terrific goal. So I'm like a dumbhead. I go down and I said, I'll never forget this as long as I live. And I'm getting carried away here. But I said, nice goal, Bobby. Oh, he said, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Coach. Thank you. It was like he'd take a hammer and hit me right between the eyes.
And then you never praised him after that.
He'd get a hat trick. I'd never go near him after a game. And I think the one year that he was healthy, man, come to think of it, he played all the games. Now that I think of it.
Yeah, played 80.
Yeah. You know why? He was protected. He got, 46 goals, 89 assists, and he was plus 123. I used to fight and hit and the whole deal. We used to protect him. But I never forgot that. I never went near him, no matter what he did after that. Boy, I'll never forget that.
Remember, but you had one rule for the team when Bobby had the puck.
Yeah. I said about it last year, he joked about it. He thought I was kidding. When Bobby Orr has the puck, don't go offside.
That was the rule. That was your coaching.
I said it. It makes sense, doesn't it? He could fool around and do what he liked. He didn't go offside. Make sure you don't go offside. When I first went there, he'd get the puck. He's just going to make one move, and some jerk would go offside that got 18 goals.
Were they
He'd
offended?
go offside.
Were they offended that you had to tell them not to go offside?
I don't know. I think maybe they thought I was kidding too, but they never went offside on him.
Well, remember one time he came to you and said, look, Don.
Oh, yeah. I got to tell you that story too. And you give guys heck.
And boy, could you give guys heck.
Well,
Holy.
Well, if they didn't cover the point. But anyhow, he said, when you're giving guys heck, he said, do you think you could give me heck once in a while? And so I'm trying to think about something he did. And one time, remember, and I hate to say it, the guy's name, I never forgot it. The one guy I remember was Dave Herekasi.
Yep.
Dave Herekasi played for me in Rochester. And I said to him,
he did that stupid in and out deke.
Deke, you go this, go that way. And I said, when are you going to learn you'll never beat a defenseman doing that junior B deke? And if he come down, Bobby didn't expect it because it was a junior B deke. And I shouldn't say junior B, but anyhow, he did, and he walked around Bobby and scored. So I'm thinking, this is the one time. And Herekasi, as God is my judge, I don't know who he must have been playing for St. Louis, and he was looking at me.
Well, you coached him in Rochester.
Yeah,
He's very close to the
I know,
family.
but you think he'd remember that? It was the junior B Deke, and he beat Bobby Orr, the greatest defenseman who ever played the game, greatest player who ever played the game. So I thought, I never said nothing. So it was about, and after he said to me, giving me heck, I thought, well, I can give him heck. So I said, and you, Bobby, I said, this was about 5 games after that. When the guy's coming down on you, I said, keep your eye on him. Don't go for those dekes. So this is a true story. We're in L.A., and guy's coming in on him. And I said, he puts his stick between his legs, and he looks over at me, and he waves like that. He's doing it like that. That's up. No, when Bobby Orr had the puck, don't go offside, and the whole deal. And you don't have to worry about him being back. And when he went in, because he was always back, he was so fast, he could come back.
Yeah, maybe we'll tell one more Bobby Orr story, and then we'll end it. How about the time he got thrown out at the exhibition game?
No, that was a long one. Okay, we're at the end of we're at the end of our exhibition game. The guys are really tired, and everybody wanted the Boston Bruins. They wanted Boston Bruins. And we're playing in Providence, and I think Dave Newell was the referee. I think it was Dave Newell, and Bobby got in a fight. I don't know what he did to get thrown out, but he got thrown out of the game in the first 5 minutes. So Bobby, he's happy.
Yeah. So where were you? We were in
Providence.
Providence.
Yeah.
So they had been pumping. Come see.
Come see
because
Bobby Orr.
You got to remember back then, there was hardly any games on TV, so you never really saw a lot of Bobby Orr. So when Bobby Orr was coming to town, it was a big deal because nobody saw Bob. Like you didn't see if you didn't live in Boston, you didn't see the
true.
games.
I should have
So
said.
it was packed, and they were like
Everybody was there to see Bobby.
and there was 1,000 people outside trying to get in, right?
So
And he gets thrown out in the first period.
first 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. So he's happy, and I don't know what he did to get thrown out.
Maybe he did it on purpose.
No, I never thought of that. So anyhow, I'm looking up, and I don't think anything. He's out of it. I'm happy he's not getting hurt. I see a guy running down all the way down to the penalty box, and he runs over to the penalty box, comes down to the penalty box. He calls the referee over, and he's yelling. And what the heck's going on? And what happened was, the referee come over and said to me, "You got to get Bobby Orr back in the game." I said, "He's already gone. He's gone. He's taking a shower." He says, "You got to get him back in." He says, "That was the owner that come down to see me." He says, "We're going to have a riot here if it comes out that he's not going to be playing." So I got to go back in the dressing room, and Bobby's in the shower. I said, "Bobby, you got to get dressed again." He says, "You're kidding." I said, and he's got soap all over him and everything.
You, the coach of the Boston Bruins, have to go in the dressing room
I had to go
and
back
pull him out of the shower.
And he wouldn't have gone back for anybody else.
I
He
see
says,
it.
"Why?" I said, "Bobby," I said, we want to have a riot here. I said, "If you don't go back and play, we're going to have a riot." So Bob is the only player that ever got thrown out of a game for misconduct and had to come back and play the game, or we would have had a riot.